Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm here in the shop. Was hoping to have part 3 of the 71 TNT Resurrection ready for you by now. But as you can see, the parts are still sitting in the same spot. Hard to get time free this time of year with all the shows and the Halloween walk that we put on. So today I'm going to take you back to February 24th, the Hideaway show, more specifically the ride that we went on, and I'm going to show you all about that. So if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, please like the videos and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a ton. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. So on February 24th, we attended the annual vintage show at the Tug Hill Hideaway restaurant in West Leiden. Pretty fun show. We've been to it the past 2 years. This year it just happened to be the location for the Boa Ski Brotherhood reunion, which I don't know much about that, but I believe they travel to different locations and have an annual get-together of Boa Ski sleds. It was pretty neat. I think in total there was over 150 sleds and 50 plus were Boa Skis, so it was pretty cool to see. So in conjunction with this show, they usually have a vintage ride. It's pretty neat. The Hideaway is right on the trail, so there's very easy access to hop on and do a little vintage ride. Funny story, we were actually having lunch, and we came out and about half the sleds were gone. So in the footage there's a lot of sleds, but it doesn't even come close to how many sleds there were, in total. A lot of them cleared out and gone on the ride, packed up, went home, whatever. But so we were kind of late to the punch. We missed the vintage ride. So me, my dad, our friend Rich, and Jeff decided to just go on our own ride. The route we took, we had done on the previous ride last year. I believe it's about a 10 or 15 mile round trip, somewhere in between there. Considering the lack of snow that we had this past season, the trails were about as good as you could hope. There's some bare spots that you'll see in the video, but the one thing is the trails were absolutely whooped. There was a lot of sled traffic on this trail system throughout the weekend, and you can see all the whoops and the bare spots. But like I said, considering the poor snow conditions that we experienced this past riding season, it was about as good as you could hope for. Not the kind of trails you'd want to be riding on a vintage sled, especially on bogies. I was riding on my 72 Olympic. The video doesn't really do it justice because the GoPro has what's called image stabilization, so it kind of smooths the video and you can't really tell how rough it was. When you see the sled in the video, you'll catch parts where you can see the sled bouncing up and down, and that really shows it. But yeah, all in all, it was a pretty bumpy ride, we'll say, but it was a blast nonetheless. So I was riding my 72 Olympic Red Devil with a 335 single cylinder. My dad was riding our 1997 Scandic 500 that we use for grooming. It's a wide track. Rich was riding his 79 Polaris TX 340, and Jeff was riding his Rupp. I'm not sure what model it is. For some reason I want to say it's a 440. But pretty cool to see a Rupp out there. Actually not ever seen one riding before, so that was a pretty cool treat for that day. But that's what we do at Northshore Vintage Sleds. We like to ride, so we had missed the ride, but there was no way that we were not going to ride, so we kind of held our own. you're gonna see some other sleds that were out there. There was at one point you'll see a 72 TNT that's heading the opposite way we are. Come to find out, he's heading back to pick up gas because there's a tin cab a little further up that ran out of gas. And then you'll see us pass a couple other vintage sleds. There's a group of 3, one of them being a 72 Colt 250, I believe, that's getting towed back. So you never know what's going to happen on these vintage rides. It's pretty typical to see at least somebody have a breakdown. But I guess that was what vintage snowmobiling was back in the day. You spend all day working on it for a 10-minute ride. So the ride is going to be broken up into 2 parts. I'm going to do the first part the way out to the checkpoint, and then the second part will come at a later date on the ride back. This was the very first time I had ever tried mounting the GoPro to my helmet to get footage. So I was kind of messing with some settings, and I actually think that the video on the way back came out a lot better, but it's still pretty cool to see. You get a good look at the trail and the scenery, and like I said, some sleds passing by. This ride was kind of a big deal for me just because this was the very first vintage ride that I was able to make with my 72 Olympic Red Devil. I had had that sled for quite a while and ended up needing a track, so I hadn't really been able to ride it up until this point. The ride was on a Saturday. I believe that Wednesday earlier in the week was the first time that I rode it around the property on our trails. And that was on a 1-gallon pony tank that I made. And then that Friday night before the show, I got the fuel tank installed and the fuel lines ran, so it would actually be, viable for a vintage ride. Got that finished, did a couple of laps around here and loaded it in the trailer. So since owning that sled, I had really not gotten a ride on it. It, was not in the, these sleds are never done. You're always working on these older sleds, but it was, put together pretty much just enough to make the ride. You'll see in the video I had to adjust the hood. The hood latches are broken, the front hood mounts are broken, so the hood was bouncing all around, especially with how rough the trails were. So you'll see me adjust, and you'll actually see me stop to have to put the hood back on because it kind of fell off. I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know how the motor was going to hold up. It seemed to run good. I wasn't worried about the drivers because I had obviously replaced those when I put the new track in. But you never know what's going to happen on these vintage runs. All in all, it turned out really good, and we all made it back, no problems. The Scandic was actually, that was the first time that it had been on a ride this year. That was actually just got put back together from repairs from last season. And then this may have been Rich's second ride, or second or third ride of the year with his 79 TX340. He had previously owned that sled, sold it, and then he bought it back for this season. So he was pretty confident in that sled, and I'm not too sure about the history of Jeff's Rupp, but it seemed to run really good, and we all made it back, like I said. If you haven't seen my walk-around video of the Hideaway show, I encourage you to check that out on my channel. Unfortunately, like I said, half the sleds were gone by the time we got done with lunch, so there's a lot of sleds there, but it really doesn't even come close to the amount of sleds. It was a very, very, very well-attended event. As it usually is, you get a lot of sled traffic coming in, because like I said, this trail system is right on there. For those of you that have been following my channel, you have seen the Red Devil at a lot of shows, a couple rides. I have plans for an upcoming video to really dive into that and talk about what I went through to get that snowmobile ready for the ride this season. I was able to take it on a couple rides anyway. That's all we had, but it was a good year nonetheless. So I appreciate you watching. If you are new to the channel and you like what you see, please like the videos and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a ton. I greatly appreciate it. And if you missed the Hideaway Show walk around video, I'm going to pop a link to that at the end of the video so you can check that out. And hope you enjoy. Part 2 will be coming at a later date, so this will be part 1, and it'll stop once we get to the checkpoint. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoy. Hope you have a great day.
going?